Hey y'all, it's Care. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in July, but first I do want to thank you so much for helping me reach 300 subscribers. I swear every single time I get a notification that I have a new subscriber or I check on YouTube Studio and see that it's gone up a little bit, it really makes my day. So if you want to know a way to support me and you enjoy watching my videos, please consider subscribing, liking the video, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to start with some stats. So in July, I read 7 books. 5 of them were physical copies of books, one of which was a graphic novel. Then I read 1 book on my Kindle and listened to 1 audiobook. So it was kind of a really good physical book reading month for me. Sometimes I fall down the rabbit hole of just listening to audiobook after audiobook, especially if all of my library holds come in at one time. But I don't know, I just felt like I really put my time and energy into reading the books on my TBR shelf that I really wanted to get to. Also going to go ahead and break down all of my ratings. I believe, let me get my fingers out to help me count. I think that I read 1 2-star book, 1 3-star book, 3 4-star books, 1 4.5-star book, which I rarely give out half-star ratings, but you'll see when I get to that one, and 1 5-star book. I want to go ahead and start with the 5-star book just because that is what I'm the most excited to talk about today. It is the book I read on my Kindle, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I feel like I've mentioned this in my last 5 videos, so if you've already heard me talk about this, just bear with me because I do have a fuller review to come here in this video. The Vanishing Half is, again, by Britt Bennett. She is the same author as, why isn't it coming to me? The Mothers, which I read earlier this year and really enjoyed. But when I tell you that The Vanishing Half is one of my new favorite books of all time, I mean it. This might be my new favorite book of 2020. It is literary fiction. I guess it's kind of also historical fiction because of some of the multi-generational aspects to the book. But it is about these 2 Black sisters from a small southern town who are both white passing. Technically, they are very light-skinned Black women from an entire town that really values women of color who have lighter skin. Then when the twins turn 16 years old, they decide to leave town together. They want to get out of this toxic environment. They are done. And from there, the twins actually split paths. One goes on to lead the life of a white passing woman, so her family does not even know that she is Black, and the other sister ends up returning to this town as an adult with her daughter. So that's how the story's stage is set. That's kind of where everything takes off from there. I do want to touch on a few things that I think that are important themes that this book handled very well. First is colorism. The Page Turner Book Club actually had a very thought-provoking live stream book club video for The Vanishing Half earlier this month, so I will link that video in the description. This book also had wonderful transgender representation, which I just thought was so beautifully done. I loved these characters, and they are just people who are really going to stick with me for quite some time. I love how these characters were not perfect. I loved that they felt so real to me. All of the dialogue felt so real. I hate it in books when I'm reading and I just think people do not speak like this. Britt Bennett just has a way of getting right to the bone of what her characters are trying to say, what their intentions are, what they want. And so then for me as a reader, I'm not trying to read between the lines of anything. I can kind of just read and I feel like I'm on the same page with what she's trying to tell me, and it's just a really beautiful experience. The last thing I'll say is I loved how the southern setting was set as a contrast to either the West Coast or New York. I loved all of the settings kind of just being really vibrantly portrayed in their own ways, and I don't know, the settings really came to life for me too. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I really highly recommend this book to anybody. First of all, anyone who thinks the book sounds interesting, but also just to anyone in general. I think that anyone who reads this book could take something important away from it. Most recently, I read Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown last month, and thoroughly enjoyed that book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I've decided to give Take a Hint, Danny Brown 4.5 out of 5 stars, which, like I mentioned, it was very, it's very rare for me to do that, but I just, when you finish a 5-star book and you just know, you automatically know 5 stars, putting that one up on the shelf, feeling like that's a new all-time favorite for me. I didn't quite get that high of a feeling from this, but I could not just give it 4 stars. I could definitely fall somewhere in between. This book is the second and most recent installment in the Brown Sisters series. So Dani Brown, who we have on the cover here, is a very driven and beautiful woman. She has a very academic-based career and wants to keep climbing the ranks in her profession. And she's friends with the security guard at her workplace named Zephyr, who is right here, who is an ex-rugby player. Basically, these two start out as friends and then they go viral together. And because of that, they decide to fake a relationship to try to help Zephyr with a project he's working on. And I know that sounds vague, but I really didn't know that much going into this story, so I really enjoyed all of the little turns that their relationship took. From friendship to the fake dating to whatever came next. We have 2 things going on in this book that I don't typically like, and it just really worked. It was the friends to lovers trope as well as the fake dating trope. Those are usually 2 that aren't necessarily for me, and I think they were done so well. This was such a cute, adorable book that also handled very heavy and sensitive topics, just like Get a Life Chloe Brown did. I love it when contemporary romance books or new adult romance books also try to dive a little bit deeper into either anxiety, chronic illness, abuse, like in relationships, things like that. And I really highly recommend this one, and I am definitely in the boat of, I think I preferred this one a little bit more than Get a Life Chloe Brown. But also, I went into this video saying I wasn't going to compare the 2 because they are just both phenomenal books, and they're both phenomenal standalones as well. So I don't know, I really like this one, and I just love the yellow too. Yellow is my favorite color. Let's do another yellow book actually. Let's do The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I also gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, which I kind of might want to go back and lower my rating just a little bit, because when I first finished this book, I was super high on it. I really loved the relationship that was explored in this book, but ever since finishing it, I don't think that I've even thought about it since I finished it. Got a lot to think about over here. This book is about Olive and Ethan, who are the best man and the maid of honor in their siblings' wedding. So their siblings are marrying each other. Olive and Ethan are not related. I don't know if that just came across that way. They're not related. Basically, everyone at the wedding gets food poisoning except for Olive and Ethan. So then they take the honeymoon that was non-refundable, that was meant for the newlyweds, and these guys do not get along. Like, they are straight up enemies. Enemies to lovers is my favorite trope in romance books. I love the tension, I love banter. I just think that putting people who don't get along in close quarters is always really funny. Like, it's just funny to me. And this book definitely delivered, but it just didn't live up to the high hopes that I had for it. I am glad that I waited to read this book in the summer, because they do go to this, I guess this island? I don't know. They're like at a beach setting. I think that this is pretty solid, especially for Christina Lauren. The only book that I've enjoyed by that duo more than this book is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. So yeah, I mean, I think I feel good about 4 stars for this one. The only way I think it could have gotten 5 stars is if they'd actually stayed on the honeymoon longer. It seems like when I was reading, they came back from this trip like with a lot of the book left, which was fine because I actually really enjoyed what happened once they got back. That was about my favorite part of the book, but I wanted a little more tension built up on this vacation. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Let's go ahead and get the 2-star book out of the way. It was If I Never Met You by Vari McFarlane, which is now up here. I want to start by saying that if you read this book and you enjoyed it, then I am happy for you. I can see where a lot of people did enjoy this, but it just was not to my liking. It really wasn't what my taste is at all, and it also just didn't execute what I think was a pretty solid storyline. I really liked the beginning of this book. I really liked the first 50 pages. This is very much a slow burn that just didn't really peak. Like, it just kind of started off as a slow burn, and then it just kept burning and burning and burning, and then just ended. Like, that's my opinion of it. So let's back up a little bit. Something happens at the very beginning of this book that I didn't know was going to happen. I went in completely blind, and because this happens so early and it's what the entire plot centers around, I'm just not going to mention it in this video, because if you look into this book and want to read it, then I want you to be surprised as well. But we just follow a very strong female main character in this book who is driven by her career as a lawyer, but also has some things happen in her personal life that just makes everything she has come to know in her adulthood crumble. So like I just said, I really like the setup of this book, but what I just didn't really like was the lack of chemistry, in my opinion, between our two love interests. I just didn't really feel like there was that much at stake, like as much as they were making it out to be in the book. I didn't really feel the chemistry maybe until the very end of the book. I don't know. I don't think it was because I listened to this audiobook instead of reading a physical copy of this book. I actually don't think I would have been able to finish the book if I had just been reading it, because I just didn't really care. And again, if you like this book, I'm happy for you, but I just was not invested. Like, this was not for me. I just think that this was a little too slow, and I know I'm always the first to say I love a boring book, but I did not love this boring book. I did not like it. While I'm at it with the contemporary romances, might as well talk about The Right Swipe by Alicia Rai. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I really hadn't heard about it, and I saw it at Walmart like months and months ago, at the very beginning of the year, I think, and I just picked it up honestly because I really liked the cover, and this was just a really good surprise. The main character here is Rhiannon, and she started a dating app, and she's a very successful businesswoman. Why? There's like a common thread in all of these, and I read about some really successful businesswomen this month. I love it. But she kind of keeps her dating life on lockdown. So one time she did use the app, matched with this guy, Samson Lima, and then Lima, and then he ghosted her, and now she's all like, oh, no chance, you ghosted me. But he tries to win her back, and you actually find out very early on that he is working for a rival dating app company, and then the storyline just blossoms from there. This is another one that just tackled such serious themes. On one side talking about handling grief, and then on another part of the book talking about sexual harassment in the workplace and kind of standing up to that. Like, this was so beautifully written, and it has, again, really important themes, and then also had this awesome, amazing, beautiful romance in the center of everything. So highly recommend this one as well. And the sequel did come out. I think it's called Girl Gone Viral, and it's like a spin-off. It follows some of the side characters from this book, so I am interested in getting to that soon too. Okay, we're done with the romance books. So if that's not your thing, I'm glad you stuck around, because we're going to talk about Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. I don't know what to say about this book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but this is one where I still stand by my rating, but I think about this book every day. This is young adult and it's science fiction, but it's kind of more like speculative fiction. It's about this group of teenagers who went separate ways after high school and then reconvene just to catch up with each other. Things get out of hand, something goes wrong, and a man comes and knocks on their door in the middle of the night to let them know that all of time has stopped, and that basically they are stuck in a time loop and have to live the same day over and over and over again until they can make this really tough decision that will make everything go back to normal. So that is how I explained the book in my TBR video too, but there's so much more to it than that. It gets way more complex than that. As someone who does not read a ton of science fiction, it wasn't hard for me to understand, but I felt like I was on a roller coaster and like at one point just flew off the side of the roller coaster and like landed down in the grass next to it because it lost me. But I did like the plot. What I did not like was the characters and the writing, which is really surprising to me because Night Film is like one of my very favorite books ever. I don't know if it's because it was YA, but these characters, like not a single character to me was likable. I was not rooting for anyone. I wasn't on anyone's side. I didn't like anybody. I didn't like the way they talked. Like, they each had very distinct ways of talking. Like, there was a southern character and he couldn't go a sentence without saying child or honey, or just saying things that no one actually says down here. Like, he spoke like an ancient southern grandmother, which just kept throwing me out of the book. I did really like the ending, but again, it just took a while to get there. So we're going 3 out of 5 stars. I know you're like, Caroline, I have literally no idea what you're talking about, but to that I say I'm very sorry. If you're interested in reading it, check it out. It's not like I don't recommend it, but it's just like I didn't enjoy it, but I could see where people who are fans of this type of thing would enjoy it. Lastly, I'm just gonna mention the little graphic novel that I read this month. I checked this out from my library. It's The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang, and it's about the growing friendship between this prince who hires a dressmaker because some days he feels really good and comfortable about being the prince, wearing his masculine clothes, and then other days he likes to wear dresses and be Lady Crystalia. And I think that everything about this book normalizes what Prince Sebastian is doing, and I think there's some really good representation in here of just like supportive family, supportive friends. This is so soft, so precious. I teared up at the end. It was really inspiring. I wasn't expecting it. It's a YA graphic novel, and if you come across this, please pick it up. Let me give you a little example of the drawing style we got going on in here. I don't know, just stuff like that. Just cute, very cute. All right, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to coming back soon with another video, and until next time, I'll see you next time. Bye.